Blah, blah, blah. All right. All right, Dave, you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Oh, I got a hell of a question for you this time, so be ready.
Oh, God. Okay.
All right. 3, 2. David is Red Sox season yet again. It feels really like Red Sox season, don't you think? It's a longer season. It's not, last year was so different. It feels like real baseball this year, doesn't it?
It does. It does kind of feel like we're in the season. The weather's getting nicer. The teams are in Florida. It feels like it's right.
So, Dave, I got a question for you before we loop in our guests here. Other than David Ortiz, because he's the easy answer, who do you think you could beat in a foot race from the Red Sox from the past 10 years?
Sandy Leon.
God damn, you took my answer. Damn it, that was my answer. You know what? I'll loop in our guests while I think of an answer. We're joined today by Christopher Smith of Mass Live, Red Sox beat reporter. Chris, welcome in.
How you doing?
So who do you think in the past 10 years of the Red Sox roster do you think you could beat in a foot race, other than David Ortiz?
Yeah, I mean, probably talk like Jarren Duran.
That's a good
he has no chance against me. Jacoby Ellsbury, no chance against me. I guess now, Dustin, because he can only walk now. But that's actually a very good question, and I was trying to think of some names right off the bat. Leon's a good one. I'll try to think of it as we go on, though, and give you somebody that's really slow.
I once got into it. This question was spurred by the fact I once got into an actual heated verbal argument in college with this total dip that lived across the hall from me. Because I said that I could beat Jose Molina in a race to first base. And I could beat any of the Molinas in a race to first base. I was like, I just settled on Jose. And he was like, they're pro ball players. You couldn't do that. They're a better athlete than you. And I'm like, bro, have you looked at Jose Molina? Like, I could beat him in a race to first base. Trust me.
Yeah.
And this was before I ever ran or anything like that. Like, I could beat him in a race to first base. My pick, this is more out of spite, but I would say Ryan Hanigan, just because I couldn't stand him. I could probably beat him.
He actually is a good guy. I like Ryan.
I'm not saying he's not a bad guy. I'm just saying he
couldn't stand him because there's a lot of people that couldn't stand him as a baseball player, but he was actually a really good baseball player. Like for the inability to, like, he didn't get drafted. So for his ability, he had like a really good on-base percentage throughout. I mean, with the Reds and stuff, and then with the Red Sox, he had a pretty decent on-base percentage. But he's a pretty good hitter for a while. He could catch.
He also looked like Kevin Bacon, which was
well. So this is the thing I get in with Ian Brown all the time from MLB.com. He always says I rate Ryan Hanigan better than Ryan Hanigan was or whatever. But I think he was good.
I've never minded him as a player. It was just he was just there, and Dave. The way our podcast works, I fly off the handle, and Dave reins me in because I tend to go off on these tangents about like players that have no reason being brought up for any good reason at all. And Dave is just like, they were better than you remember them. Like Jimmy Butler's a famous one that we've done this with. Jimmy Butler's mad overrated. Dave is like, no, he's like a really good basketball player. And I'm like,
he is.
It's fair enough. Dave was right. But Dave, what were you going to say about good old Ryan Hanigan?
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to say it. I mean, we also have to keep in mind, like, catcher is just such like a wasteland a lot of times for like backups. And it's really like the position where you tolerate below average offensive production. And if you have a guy that can get on base and can handle a pitching staff, like that's all you really need. You don't need to hit 320 with 30 home runs like you do out of a corner outfielder or a third baseman.
Yeah.
This is fair. Unfortunately, Ryan Hanigan not on the current Red Sox roster. I don't even think he's in baseball anymore. But
no, he's not. He's probably like over 40 now.
And you know what? If Kevin Cash can play for the Red Sox, anybody can play for the Red Sox.
So there you go. That was probably a slow guy. And Mirabelli, obviously.
Oh, Mirabelli, definitely.
Man, Mirabelli. I could probably get to second base by the time Mirabelli.
I'm trying to remember what like Salto Lamacchia was like speed wise, but
for a catcher, I don't think he was that bad. But again, for catchers, the qualifier, they're all fairly slow. But getting into the 2021 Red Sox, as listeners may know, I was not high on the 2020 Red Sox for good reason because they were bad. But as I tweeted the other day, they weren't bad enough to get the top two pitchers in the draft likely. They're definitely not getting Kumar Rocker. They're probably not getting Jack Leiter. But they were, Dave, you said 24 and 36 last year?
Yep.
Yeah. Not great, but still not the worst they could have been. So in 2021, I guess, Chris, I'll start off with a very broad question of where do your expectations sit with this team in 2021?
Yeah, so I think they'll be in the playoff hunt for a wild card spot. There's no reason they shouldn't be. I was actually talking with my father-in-law. He asked me today when Chris Sale was coming back, and I was like, late July, early August, maybe. I was like, but that would be a great, that's like a great trade deadline acquisition if you're in the wild card hunt, right, or in the playoff hunt. So I think they're going to be like a mid 80 win team. I just think their starting pitching is a lot better. The depth of their starting pitching is a lot better, so they're not going to have to go. They were going down to. They started the year last year with Ryan Weber as their number 3 starter, and now he's not even on the 40-man roster. So the depth that they've added. I think it's just much improved, and they're not going to have to use openers and stuff and try to connect, length throughout a game, first inning through the ninth, like with a billion pitchers.
That's good. Ryan Weber, the baseball prospectus was not kind to him, as Dave knows from last week's trivia round. Not kind to him, very, very, very much. But having him not in the rotation is a good thing. But I have a little bit of pause with the rotation only because there's so many guys who have a history of injury. And Garrett Richards, I don't know what the stat is exactly, but he hasn't thrown 100 innings since like 2015. And you're relying on a lot of, guys who've had severe to moderate injuries. And then I love Eduardo Rodriguez, and I love that he's going out there as probably the ace to start the season. But I just hope he's back to his old form and he can stay healthy and go more than 6 innings every outing. So I'm just curious to get your insight on why you're a little more faithful in the starting pitching than I am.
Yeah, well, I think that Connor Seabold is going to be a really good option in the minors. And so, you have somebody go down. That's one guy right there. He was thrown in the mid-90s earlier in spring training. He's really known for his changeup. And I won't get too technical, but he's got pronation on his changeup. He throws it like that way instead. But anyway, never mind, because no one's interested in that.
No, but I'm interested. It's a learning curve, no pun intended for me. But I'm still trying to get more in depth on the various minutia of pitches. I'm trying to learn.
So I like him. And then, I'm really big on Garrett Whitlock. And, obviously, everybody is, especially the manager and the chief baseball officer, Chaim Bloom. Both of them love him. Like, you ask about Whitlock and they just rave and rave and rave. And I like Whitlock as a guy that, it's a good spot that he's in right now, like as a swing man, a guy that can relieve, a guy that can maybe spot start here and there. So I'm not saying that if somebody struggles in the rotation, he would be the number 1 guy you'd bring out there because, he just had Tommy John surgery 2 years ago and he didn't pitch last year, obviously. And he's coming back from all that. So it's not like he could go 160 innings, but he's somebody that if you need to slot in the rotation, he can do it. As I said, Seabold, and then, Tanner Houck is obviously another guy. And, so I think with him, he definitely obviously needs to work on command right now and his third pitch against lefties. But when we saw him go out there last year, it was like, he just competes, and he's like a tough guy. He's like, one of those horse type tough guys that he's just going to, even if he doesn't have his best stuff, he's going to compete. So those are the 3 guys right there. And then you go down to more people, they've added some guys in the system, on minor league deals and stuff. So, I just think, I think that, there are question marks, obviously, with, Garrett Richards. There's a question mark with Eduardo Rodriguez. He didn't pitch well this last outing, and people say dead arm, and is there any concern and stuff? And the amount of innings he can go. I think that the whole thing about, just because they threw, I think Martin Perez led the team with like 60, 70 innings last year. So, and he had made all his starts. So no one came even were close to 150, 200 innings last year. So they're saying, well, some people are going with 6-man rotations because of that. And there's, plans of spot starts here and there just to, but, I look at it and I'm like, well, we really don't know how the pitchers will react after missing or, having limited workloads last year. It could help to their favor. We saw John Lackey come in 2013. He didn't pitch the whole 2012 after an arm injury, Tommy John surgery in 2011, and he had like 170 innings or something. And so, so I look at it like, it's very well that that this is getting overblown, and pitchers will be able to just do what they normally do.
So I'm kind of curious how the bullpen pans out, because that's kind of been like an Achilles heel for them going back years. They haven't really had a lot of options. They have a lot of guys that are kind of hit or miss. Like Brazier has like an extended stretch where he's really good, and then he goes into a rut. What's your level of confidence with the bullpen this year with Darwinzon Hernandez and Ryan Brazier, Josh Taylor, Austin Bryce, Matt Barnes? What's your level of confidence with that?
Yeah, I think they're going to have a good bullpen. Darwinzon Hernandez is this guy. It's funny, his stats, like he walks a lot of guys, and we're going to see that too with Adam Ottavino. He walks a lot of guys, but no one gets a hit off Darwinzon. Like you look at like his career batting average against. I mean, it's obviously a limited sample size, but if he can reduce a little bit on those walks. So I like Hernandez. I think they're going to use him as a late game option. I think the closer will be Matt Barnes. They're still deciding between him and Ottavino. I think Ottavino is going to have a bounce back year. If you look at his stats, a lot of the peripherals were good last year. It was, he had one bad outing in Toronto where he had like 4 runs without allowing it, 4 runs without recording an out, I think. So, I think he'll have a good bounce back year. And as Whitlock's like an interesting guy, as I said before with him, like, he could be even used in high leverage spots because, they talk about with him, like, he's got such a good sinker that they can, do their shifts and rearrange their players, and Whitlock could, help them get a ground ball. And so I like him a lot. I think Matt Barnes has had a very good spring training, but he's very, hit or miss throughout the year. A lot of things, if you look at his splits, I mean, he is not a great second half pitcher in his career. So they just got to make sure that they, keep him rested and keep him healthy. That's the most important thing with him. I think he can do the job. But, look, in 2013, when Koji Uehara was maybe had the best closer year in Red Sox history, individual season, he was like the third person they went to that year. And so just because you start the year off with Matt Barnes, you can, and he doesn't get the job done, you can go to Ottavino, you can go to Sawamura. And it's funny, like Alex Cora made a point the other day, as Sawamura's actually, really struggled with his command and stuff in spring training. But he's like, I've seen a lot of Japanese players, come over in spring training and look like they've never played baseball before. And then they're, they find it during when the regular season comes. So I think he's got really good command. There's obviously been some, adjustments he's had to make, the with the baseball and stuff. It's a different baseball. It's a different mound and stuff like that. So there's things, but I think they have, a pretty good bullpen. Brazier's an interesting guy because once he comes back, and I don't think he's that far off because, he threw a live BP yesterday. He's throwing another one Thursday. And so he hasn't gotten any Griffith League games, but he is throwing to batters and simulating innings. And what really stood out to me about him last year during the stretch that he was really dominant, I mean, he started the year, he was not good. And then, for like the final month and a half, he was really good out of the 2 months of the season. And his fastball velocity was there. If his fastball velocity is there this year, then I expect him to do well. So I actually like the bullpen too. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic. I'm optimistic at this time of the year, I guess. So we shall see.
Yeah,
Oh, and another one is Josh Taylor. Sorry, but that you mentioned, but I think that he's going to have a good season. I mean, his stuff really played in 2019, or yeah, 2019, 2020. He was just like, he had the COVID at the beginning of the year. He couldn't get out of the hotel room. So he wasn't really in shape last year, and it really affected him. But I think that's a really good player. And another one to look out for is Eduardo Bizzardo, who's a prospect. He has the best spin rate on his curveball. He had the best spin rate on his curveball of any relievers at camp this year. And, he's 25. He's thrown with a lot more velocity than he ever did. They added him to the 40-man roster. He could be a guy that you could see up during the year and really help the team.
So, I guess the answer may seem obvious, but I'm still curious to see what you'd say to this. Who do you think right now is the face of this team?
So I guess the face of the team would probably be Bogaerts, but I think it has the potential to be Devers. Because like Devers is, he's a fun guy and he's going to hit for a ton of power. He's going to, hit for like, I'm not saying David Ortiz power, but he's similar, 30 home run type guy. And, and he makes these weird faces out on the field all the time and people like him. And so I could see him, I totally understand why, he does speak English. I totally understand why anybody would use a translator, especially, I tried to learn Spanish, couldn't do it. So I applaud these guys that are even, attempting to learn it. I think he'll eventually speak to the media through English, and that will, when you do that, that will show off his personality a little bit more, because he has a good personality. He has an interesting personality. Right now he does speak English. Like if I'm going through the translator with him, like he understands my question, and so he can just say it back in Spanish to the translator. So the translator doesn't have to translate my question. So he does speak well. It's just that he's not that comfortable yet, and that's fine. So, but I think maybe once you see that personality more, when he's, it's not through the translator, that could be a guy that's the face.
So, and before I throw it back to you, Dave, just a quick follow up to that. Do you see any potential for Verdugo to become the face of the team?
Oh, I thought you were asking Dave. No. You're asking me.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So, Verdugo is actually an interesting one. I think that he has that potential. I think that he's going to be a player that fans really like, an energy type player that fans, when the fans are in the stadium finally, and, more than just whatever they're admitting on opening day and to begin the season 4,000. I mean, when the place is packed, he's going to be the type of player that's diving for balls, pumping his fist, very energetic type of guy, and, really rowdy with teammates, and, having fun out there, and he'll show it with the fans, and the fans will react to it. So I'm not sure. I think that always hurts him that, there's going to be some comparison to Mookie Betts, because it's unfair to him. And he is a good player himself. I mean, he's a really good player. He got an MVP, I don't know, like 10th for the MVP or something last year. So it's like he got some MVP votes and stuff. And, so he's he's a really good player. What I like about him is his, bat to ball skills. A lot of guys are striking out and homering all the time. He's still like a really good contact hitter who's just gonna, he's gonna have over an 800 OPS. I said to my fellow beat writer Cotillo last year, I said, going into the season, I was like, Verdugo's a lot better than Benintendi. That will play out for the rest of their career, and I obviously that looks good now, but I think he's that player that we thought that Benintendi could be.
So I'm curious too, because obviously they don't have Bradley anymore in center, which, I mean, that covers up a lot of holes, and that makes the outfield look a lot better as a whole. And we're a few years removed now from Betts, Benintendi, and Bradley, when everyone was raving about how awesome the outfield defense was. what are your thoughts on the outfield defense as a whole? Because obviously Verdugo's moving from the corner to center field. It's kind of a big difference.
Yeah, so I think that there's a chance that at home, Fenway Park where center field isn't that tough, that Verdugo will play right field and Kike Hernandez will play center field. And on the road, they'll have Verdugo in center field. And they'll go, with the different alignments. So they'd go with Hunter Renfroe probably in right field, and they would go with, Frenchie in left field. So I look at it like even at home, there's a potential for Hunter Renfroe to play center field, and because they do like him as a defender, and and for Verdugo to play right field. So I don't think that Kike's like his advanced metrics is like defensive run saved are really good in second base, center field, and left field. So he is a good defender. He was the one though that made that bad play in the World Series, right, last year.
I'm pretty sure that was him. Yeah.
So yeah.
The one that the Rays got the walk-off on. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, overall, he's a really good defender at different positions. And if you would ask me like a month ago, I would have said that he was going to play a lot of second base. But now I think things are trending towards he's going to start games in center field and might end up at second base by the seventh, eighth inning, ninth inning. I just think things are trending that way. So, so he's a good outfielder. Verdugo's, good outfielder. Frenchie's stats, they everybody loves his athleticism and stuff like that. He's got like good sprint speed and all that, and which Benintendi's was, his was degressing as he went on. But there's area for Frenchie to get better defensively, and he could be, an average to above average defender. So we'll see. But obviously the defense isn't as good as 2018.
That's true.
Yeah, I think wishful thinking. So I'm interested to see what you think the season holds for JD Martinez, because last year you can't really look at home run RBI numbers because of the season, or you've projected out or whatever, but his batting average was .213, which is really, really bad. The worst since 2012, I think it was for him. So what do you see the season holding for JD Martinez?
Yeah, so I think that with him, I think it was good that he was honest and he was like, I didn't prepare during the pandemic shutdown, in between when spring training, March, whenever they got sent home until summer training camp began, which was in early July or whatever. He had only started hitting like a month before summer training camp. So there's 2.5 months that he didn't hit. And we saw a lot of his Instagram things. He was on his boat fishing a lot and stuff like that. So I think he was honest. In this offseason, he went in there and he's like, he was, saying that he's going to be prepared, and he really broke down his swing and stuff. I think that the in-game video is probably not the reason why he wasn't good last year, not having that, but it will help him this year, because a lot of what JD does is that, if he looks at his swing like after his first at bat, after his second at bat, after his third at bat, where last year, and he can make the adjustment after the first at bat. He can say, "Oh, this is what I was doing in the first at bat." He looks at the videos. Oh, I got to change that for the second one, and he makes the adjustment for the second one. The problem was last year is that he was doing the same thing the first, second, third, and fourth at bat because he couldn't see the video until after the game. So I think he'll be better. He's starting to hit a little bit. He's taking some walks here in spring training. The last 3 days, he's been pretty good. He's never had good spring training. He had decent spring training numbers, in 2018. But if you look at his overall spring training numbers, 3 of the 4 spring trainings he's had with the Red Sox, he hasn't hit a home run. So he's not like a big spring training hitter either. So I don't think his stats are reflective. Right now, his spring training stats aren't reflective of what he's going to do this year or what he could do this year.
Yeah. So I have kind of like I was thinking the other day, the Red Sox have had kind of a very mediocre farm system for a little while. And that's probably because just it goes in waves. Like you bring up the guys and it takes a little while for the other guys to kind of get to that level. But it feels like we're kind of at a spot now where guys are starting to be closer to being ready to producing, to getting more than just utility guys and back end bullpen guys. Like we have Jeter Downs, Casas is only a couple of years away probably. Brian Mata was relatively close, but obviously he's hurt now. But Jarren Duran, Bobby Dahlbeck. What are your thoughts overall, just on the farm system as a whole, and who do you see maybe as being ready to help the team this year? Obviously, besides Dahlbeck.
I think their 2018 draft class is really interesting to look at. You know, they had, as you mentioned, Duran, Thaddeus Ward. There's some guys from that 2018 Casas was in that draft too. So that's one that could be like, you could look back in like 5 years and be like, wow, that was some good drafting in 2018. So their system's been ranked 20th by Baseball America. You know, entering this season, it was ranked 20th entering last season. So you say, oh, you know, what happened? They didn't really make a jump. Well, they did. I mean, they added some, you know, interesting, you know, guys like I'm trying I'm trying to think like, well, through trades, they added a lot of major league pieces, right? So they added like Pivetta, and they added Verdugo, and they added Frenchie. So, you know, I mean, through trades they didn't, but they added through added, you know, guys that are in like the 10 to 20 range organizationally, 10 to 30 range organization, like Seabold, you know, ranked organization like Seabold, and, you know, certain guys like that really could make a jump this year. They really, you know, think they have something with them. There's other guys like, you know, you look at a guy like Jonathan Arauz, who was a Rule 5 draft pick the year before, and he had to stick on the team all last year. And when he played, he showed some good potential. He's only 21. He had never played above. I don't think he had played many games above AA before, or he hadn't played any games above AA. But his AA resume wasn't very big before last year. He pretty much played in High A. And so he's going to get to go down to the minor league system and develop more this year. So he could be a potential guy that really jumps. So they do have some guys. I think that, you know, you look at that group of young pitchers, Ward, who I mentioned, Mata, who does have the, you know, injury right now, Noah Song, who potentially could be back this year during the season. We'll see if he gets his, you know, waiver. You know, he's going to be, I mean, this guy throws like 90 something, like, you know, upper 90s. He's has really good control. I mean, he has the ability to be an ace type pitcher. Jay Groom has pitched better. I guess they liked what he did at the alternate training site last year. From what I've seen of scouting reports, especially on Sox.com, his velocity dropped a little bit at the fall instructs, but I mean, he was throwing 95, 96, I think 97 in spring training. So that's another guy. It's like, you know, he's still very young, you know? And so that group of young pitchers right there with the Ward, Song, Groom, guys like that, you know, you have to have somebody come out of there that's going to be a legit rotation piece.
So where do you see them going in the draft this year? Because to me, the best case scenario is Jack Leiter falls to them at 4. I don't think it's going to happen, but what do you think they're going to do with the number 4 pick right now?
Yeah. So what's that? You know, and I'm not huge on college baseball right now. I'm trying to do a little bit better.
Neither am I. Dave might be the
I said Carabas like tweets out all these college things, so I know a little bit about more college now. But I think that he's going to stop once the Red Sox draft 4th. That's my prediction. He's going to stop. He's going to stop caring about college at that point. But who's the guy from LSU, the pitcher?
Let me see if I can pull him up here.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, there's a pitcher right there that they could pick at 4.
I see a pitcher from Ole Miss named Gunnar Hoglund.
That's not him.
Wait, Jaden Hill?
Yeah, Jaden Hill's a guy that you should look at it for. But I'm hearing that in that range that there's the high school positional prospects are better than the college prospects. It's a very difficult draft because it's like, you know, as Bloom had said to me, he was like, you know, you look at these guys, their freshman year, and a lot of them, you know, are just adjusting to college ball and stuff, and they're, you know, not that good and stuff like that. And they usually make their really big progress sophomore year. I mean, we saw it with Andrew Benintendi. I mean, after his freshman year at Arkansas, he wasn't considered, wouldn't have been considered a top 10 round pick. After his sophomore year, he became a top 10 overall pick. And so this class that we're seeing is juniors here. The scouts haven't seen them since they were freshmen, and freshmen is very difficult to judge anyway. So they have less information on all these guys anyway. And so I think that because there's that less information and, and with the high school class and with the college class, I think things are going to change as we get closer to the draft, right? Like, orders are going to change, and it could even happen at the beginning. Leiter would be awesome. I think I'm beginning to think, though, I read it actually 2 or 3 things a couple of weeks ago that said that Rocker actually could fall below Leiter. Leiter could go number 1 and Rocker could go 2, 3, or 4. So, if I was the Red Sox, I would focus on either can't miss high school, position player, or, a legit starting pitcher like Leiter, Rocker, or Hill.
And I remember speaking of Benintendi, I got into a heated argument with my uncle when he got drafted because my uncle really wanted them to take Carson Fulmer with that pick.
Yeah.
And I mean, Fulmer's not anything special right now either, but he was just so mad. And Benintendi had that great year and he ate his words, and then now he got traded. So now I'm not on the.
If you look at him, his WAR is like, his WAR, there's no one with a better WAR in the top 10 besides Bregman. So it's not like, Benintendi's not a good player and that he couldn't, he might go on to be a good player with the Royals. He's actually a really good spring training hitter, and he's having a bad spring training. So that's interesting.
So if you had to pick one part of this team that's the strength, what would you say is the strongest part of this team?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I'd say probably the power in the offense. You look through the lineup, and there's just guys that can pop out 30 home runs everywhere, like Hunter Renfroe. Dahlbeck was, Bill James's handbook had Dahlbeck with more home runs, projected for more home runs than, JD Martinez. Obviously Bogarts and Devers, those guys can hit the ball out of the ballpark at any point. Looking at the lineup, they definitely have, really good power. I mean, look at Christian Vasquez. He's even a guy that hit 20-something home runs. So they're looking at the bottom, 7, 8, and 9 hitters as guys that can drive the ball out of the ballpark at any minute, which actually makes a lot of sense to structure a lineup like that because there hasn't been much production 7 through 9 in all of baseball, really, in terms of on-base percentage and stuff like that in recent years. So, you get your power guys there, but there's power throughout. I think somebody mentioned that to Core today. I think it was Sean McAdam. He was like, you always talk about the power at 7, 8, 9. There's power throughout this thing. So I think they'll hit home runs. They'll probably be even last year when they weren't a good offensive team, they were still a good offensive team. It just wasn't their offensive team, So, despite not having Mookie Betts, despite not having Andrew Benintendi, some of these guys, Jackie Bradley, some of these guys that we've, talked about that been there for the years, their offense is still powerful. They should be fine. And I think after that, if you look at it, the way pieces fall, the rotation could be, like if things, if people are able to pitch the way that they are capable, people like Pivetta, is a starting rotation guy. This guy could be like the Tyler Glass now of the, what he did when he went from the Pirates to the Rays. So if you have one of those, like if he hits like that and he's pitching like a 3 when he's really in the, the 5th man in the rotation, the rotation could be a strength, which is pretty ridiculous to say because, like a month ago or 2 months ago, I was, it looked really bad. The situation looked really bad. And, obviously last year it was terrible.
So quick, we'll go division by division, pick our winners, do a little maybe like MVP, and then we can do our World Series projections before we maybe 10 or 15 minutes here. But we'll start in the AL East naturally. That's where the Red Sox are. So who do you have winning the AL East, Chris?
Yeah, so I think the Yankees probably will. They have the best team, right?
They always say on paper team. I physically can't get those words out of my mouth, so I'm going to say the Rays. But yes, they are also very good.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Sox are a wild card. In the wild card hunt. It's actually, when you bring up the Yankees, it's interesting to comp. Just go look at it, like the first 90-something plate appearances of Aaron Judge's career compared to the first 90-something plate appearances of Bobby Dahlbeck's career. And Bobby Dahlbeck's numbers are way better, and they are like the same age as rookies in that first half of the rookie season. So, yeah, I mean, we could see him be the next Aaron Judge, or we could see him be the next Will Middlebrooks. Who knows? But, yeah, I'd say the Yankees, I guess. Go with the Yankees.
I'm going to go with the Yankees as well, Jake. I
you're,
know.
You're a traitor, Dave.
I can say it. I'm not rooting for them, but I can at least say it.
Dave, I can't believe you. Chris has to be objective. He's a reporter on this kind of stuff. I'm disappointed in.
I have to be objective.
The American League Central, I'm riding the White Sox, baby. Give me those White Sox. I love that team.
Unless I guess they've come to like Tony La Russa. That actually from what I hear, I didn't really talk to him much when he was in the Red Sox organization, but from what I hear, the people in the front office loved him. Like, he's like a really likable guy. I mean, he was on like every road trip too with Dombrowski, and when Dombrowski was fired, they actually like the people that took over as general manager, like the Edwin Miros and those people. I'm trying to think who else was at that time, but anyway, but yeah, Raquel, and they wanted him to stay. They like pushed for him to stay. They wanted him to stay because they liked him a lot. So although it was a weird manager pick, I think that like Alex Cora would have probably gotten more out of that team if they had picked him, or AJ Hinch. But I think that they'll probably be. I'll go with the Chicago White Sox, even though they have La Russa, because I don't think things will be as much of a disaster with La Russa as they should be. I think the players will like him.
I'm gonna go with the White Sox too. I do like the Twins, and obviously the Indians somehow always kind of put together, band-aids. But I think losing Lindor is pretty big, because that lineup wasn't great aside from Ramirez and him, and Ramirez took a step back last year too. So I'm gonna go with the White Sox.
Very tough for me to pick against Rhode Island native Rocco Baldelli, but I still think they make the playoffs. I really hope they don't play the Yankees. Let's just put it that way, because they just won't win. I mean, we all know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Big Giolito fan too, so I gotta go with my guy Lucas Giolito. Love that dude. The AL West, Chris, who's gonna win?
Why don't you go first? I haven't even thought of the AL West.
I really don't want to say the Astros, but I almost feel like it's the Astros or the Athletics for me.
What about like, I'm trying to think like what the Athletics lost and what they got. They got
Chris Davis for Elvis Andrus.
Who pays attention to the Athletics until
yeah.
And like they're like, oh, the Athletics are pretty good.
They did lose Liam Hendricks at closing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They did lose Liam Hendricks to the White Sox.
Yeah, probably Houston. I would say Houston, just because they were what they in their small sample size last year, they were 30. They were 500 team, but I think that they're obviously got the most talent and everything, and so yeah, I'll go with them.
Another wasted year for Mike Trout and the Angels.
Although you could see it with Oakland. I mean, every year there's just something new with them, and you're like, wow, they're really good. They found that player, So Oakland could be there too.
Like Dave said with Cleveland, they're like that Cleveland type team. Like they always find a way to put together a competitive team.
Yeah, the Angels are weird. The Angels are weird. I don't know how they're gonna look. They're just such an underachiever from year to year. And Joe Maddon's obviously over there, so that would be good, but we'll see.
Dave?
This is tough. I mean, obviously to me I think everyone would say it's a 2-horse race. The Angels are perennial underachievers. The Mariners are kind of rebuilding, and
the Rangers are just bad.
The Rangers are just bad.
They're bad.
I mean, I'd probably go with the Astros. I just think not only the best talent, they have the most desire to add pieces if they need something. I'm not sure the Athletics are always in that market. I think they're more likely kind of on the fence unless they really feel like they can go for it, and I just don't know if that's this year or not.
So, Dave, I'll start with you for this one. And if it's the obvious answer, try to think of someone who might compete with him for it. Who is the AL MVP this year?
That's a tough question. Obviously, first guess, like you said, Mike Trout. But I mean, I think you could go like if you go to the White Sox, like a Jose Abreu, if they win a lot of games, if he hits 40 home runs or 45 home runs and hits 300, like similar to 2 years ago, then I think that he could obviously be in the running. And there's other guys like if Aaron Judge steps up a little bit again and doesn't get hurt like he's done like the last few years. There's a lot of other options, but Carlos Correa, or Bregman. I just think that Trout is kind of like pretty clearly the favorite, sort of like a Gonzaga in the tournament. Like they're pretty clearly the favorite, and I just don't know if you can really go against it.
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer is Trout wins it, but Abreu comes close to winning back-to-back MVPs. I like LeMahieu. LeMahieu got pretty close last year, and again, that pains me to say it, but maybe Jose Ramirez with Lindor gone pads his stats maybe a little bit more. But I think the easy answer is Trout, but Jose Abreu might make another push.
I like the Aaron Judge thing. I don't know. I mean, they're going to have a good offense. If he can stay healthy, then maybe it's him.
Maybe
so
it's
I'll go with Aaron Judge.
I'll make good for the Jose Altuve MVP here.
Yes, that's true, right?
National League East, Dave, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year the Marlins were a good story, but I don't think they're going to repeat that. I don't think the Nationals are quite as good. I'm going to go with the Mets. I think they've always kind of struggled with their lineup. They've always had decent pitching, even if they only had, quadruple A kind of guys where it's like they're back and forth between triple A and the majors. They always kind of get guys that can always kind of fill the rotation, give you innings. Their bullpen's a little questionable in the back, but I think they can upgrade that, and they've proven that they really want to go out and compete this year. And I think that starting rotation is pretty damn good with Stroman. I think he's the fourth starter. So it's a really, really good rotation, and Lindor adds to that lineup. And for once, they're actually going to score runs for their pitchers.
Novel idea. I'm going with the Mets too. I'll make it easy. I think the Nationals are good. They'll make a run as well. They're always pretty stacked. The Marlins, I agree. I think they'll be in the playoff hunt, obviously, but overall, I don't think they're going to challenge the Mets, which is a weird thing to say. People, I feel like they're maybe sleeping on the Braves a little bit.
Yeah, that's it.
They do have one of the best players in baseball. But yeah, I'll roll with the Mets. It'll be a really tight NL East, though.
Plus, I mean, they were up were they up 2-0 or 3-0 against was it 3-0 against the Dodgers in the NLCS?
I can't remember.
Or maybe it was did they play them in I don't know, whatever. But they were like on the brink of or something. They were, I don't know, I'll have to look it up, but whatever. I guess I go with the Mets though because of that rotation, but I wouldn't rule out the Braves either.
No, I mean, I feel like people really are sleeping on the Braves. If you're a betting person, you're going to Vegas. Maybe I would look at it and be like, the Braves, they might be a trendy pick there.
Yeah.
Yes, the Braves they lost in 7 games to the Dodgers. Let me see what the series was. It was 1-2. They were 3-1 in that series.
3-1, yeah.
And they were up 3-1. They got blown out in Game 3. They blew out the Dodgers in Game 4, and then they lost 4-3 in Game 7. But yeah, so they were right at the doorstep. Unfortunately, you see a lot of good teams right at the doorstep, and they never quite come back. But yeah, I think the Mets are the trendy pick there. Let's hope they don't screw it up. The NL Central. Oh my God.
I could go first if you want.
Yeah, please do.
I think this is going to be one of the worst divisions in baseball. I just think that overall, like the Brewers have a lot of holes. I think they have some real talent. Obviously, Yelich, who's going to compete for an MVP every year, but I think their bullpen got a little bit worse. They lost a little bit of depth. I think the Pirates are perennial, just going to be bad until they develop that farm system a little bit more. The Reds are kind of looking to me like maybe an underachiever, losing Bauer.
I forgot they made the playoff last year, quite honestly.
Yeah. Joey Votto said they were going to really challenge everyone, and they went out 3-0 and scored 1 run in 3 games. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals because I think the Cubs really didn't improve at all. And I think Arenado is enough to put the offense over the top. I'm not sure about the pitching, but like I said, I think this division has a lot of holes. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that easy answer, the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the Cubs are. It's gonna be a kind of a bridge year for the Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals are the easy answer. Like, as much as I would like to say the Brewers, they do have a lot of great players. They have Devin Williams, they have Christian Yelich, but at the end of the day, the Cardinals are just the better team there. And we all know they'll get to the playoffs and they'll probably lose in the first or second round because that's what the Cardinals do these days. But they'll win the division at the very least. So congratulations. And then the NL West, which is intriguing because you've got the Dodgers and the Padres and pretty much nobody else. Now, Dave, I know you have the Rockies winning this division. But
the Rockies are like, whatever you say for other organizations, the Rockies just don't know how to manage a baseball team. Like, they don't know how to take care of their farm system and their pitchers and their hitters. Like, you have Arenado, and he just you're probably not going to be happy if you don't win a lot, but still, it's just, to me, it doesn't seem like they really did that right. But I mean, it's Padres or Dodgers, and I think both could be made. There's a decision you could be making on both that are like, wow, that's a good point. Like, the Padres rotation's better, but to me, the Dodgers rotation is just like, it's so deep. Their bullpen is so good, and their offense is just, it's like it's like a creative team. They're so good, and they have the farm system to back it up if they don't improve. It's just like a fine-tuned machine right now at this point.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and one of you two brought it up earlier. It's like, like farm systems, they go in and out and stuff like that. And, if you're good at the major league level, it's tough to, continue to be good at and have a good farm system and stuff like that. But the Dodgers are incredible just because they're, what is it? 3 out of the past 4 years, they've gone to the World Series and they continue to have one of the best farm systems in baseball. And so the way that Andrew Friedman over there has run things, it's a lot of people compare like the model of the Red Sox. They're saying, it's the Rays North, that Bloom's going to be like the Rays. Well, I think he's going to do things like, Friedman with the Dodgers. I mean, Friedman didn't give out any 9-digit contract until Mookie Betts. So he was there for like 5 years before he gave that out. So, I mean, there was like a 90 million something for Kershaw or whatever. But, so I think that you look at it, the Dodgers, and I mean, they got David Price, so they're all set.
That's right. They do. That is the X factor there.
It's actually a very good X factor.
He is a good X factor, for sure.
They could have used him big time in the postseason last year.
And they still won the World Series.
That's true.
The embarrassment of riches, the Dodgers.
Well, because they had to go with they went with an opener a couple times, but they could have. I mean, it was actually very interesting because I was really hoping that I was really kind of sad that David Ortiz opted out of last year, and I respect his decision or whatever. But after he had never performed in the postseason or whatever, at least that narrative was there. And then in 2018, he pitched so well in the postseason. I was like, do you want to see this guy back in the postseason again? Right now, he's a big game pitcher. So I'm looking forward to the postseason with the Dodgers this year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I mean, I think the Dodgers do win the division, but I think the Padres definitely. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed if it comes down to the Dodgers and the Padres in the NLCS or something like that, because that'll be a ridiculous series. But before we go, actually, NL MVP. I forgot the NL MVP. Dave, do you want to give us your pick?
I mean, I think it's Tatis. I think he's sort of like Trout in that he's heavily favored this year. But it's going to be really interesting. I actually have a weird kind of question to throw it to both of you. Who in 3 years, who would you rather take, Mookie Betts or Tatis Jr.?
Tatis Jr.
Yeah.
Probably Tatis. I mean, he's younger, so there's that.
I'm not exactly sure how Mookie Betts is going to age. I don't think he's going to be like on the second half of that contract. I'm not sure he's going to be like. I could be completely wrong though. But if you look at like wars of players over like 33, 34, the lack of positional player wars just goes down at that age, and so, but those contracts are signed for the front ends, not the back ends. So if I was to pick an MVP, it would not be. If I was going to pick a Dodger, you'd think I'd pick Mookie Betts, but I think like a Bellinger or a Seager could have like Seager's having a really good spring training. I think he's got like 6 home runs or something. So I could see one of those guys winning it and like, complementing Betts so they have a major year. Like, Mookie kind of did things with, David Ortiz. He had that monster year and what was it, 2016 with, and then he didn't have a great season in 2017, and then 2018 when he had JD Martinez protect him in the lineup again, he was MVP. So like a guy like Betts can help out over the long season. A guy like Seager or Bellinger or something. So yeah, I'll go with one of those guys.
What are the contract situations for Bellinger and Seager right now?
No idea. I should know that, but I really don't know.
More from my walking SPO track up there, Dave. Usually knows.
Well, I think both of them are towards the back half of arbitration.
Yeah, I was gonna say the bill's gonna come due on those guys soon.
Yes, Seager's a free agent after this season. Is that correct?
I think he wasn't Seager Super 2. I think. I think he came up, and he ended up being Super 2. I can check, but
let's put it this way: 2 MVP caliber players. They're going to be expensive to keep around.
Yeah, Bellinger's a free agent after 2023, I believe.
It's just, it's like you said, like the way they've been able to keep all this talent around, like on the cheap for some of them, and then keeping the farm system still loaded. It's just absolutely insane. But
they had valuations on players. So like, they were willing to go to so it's not like when I say that they didn't give out a 9-digit contract for the first 5.5 years, that it wasn't like he didn't want. I mean, there were people they had on their radar. Obviously, Garrett Cole, it's the offseason before, but they always had like valuations. They were only going to go to certain limits, and they had always had bets in their sight too. Like for the past couple of years, I know that some Dodgers writers have been writing for past couple winter meetings before the Red Sox traded bets to them that they were. I remember reading some columns that like in free agency, the Dodgers are really going to go hard after bats. That's what I read before, well before you even thought the Red Sox were going to trade bats. So, so they've done things smart, and so they're able now to give out some money too, to those guys.
So, last but not least, what is your? We'll start with you, Dave. Again, we'll sacrifice you again, Dave. What's your World Series pick?
I think the Dodgers. I think the NL is very, very competitive with the Mets, Padres, and Dodgers. I think those are all 3 teams that are really, really strong with depth, pitching, and hitting. I would go with the Dodgers. I just think that they're loaded. Even if they have 2 or 3 major injuries, they have guys like Price doesn't really have a rotation spot right now, definitively. He's kind of said like he's going to float around. He'll do whatever they want. And like to have a $32 million a year Cy Young caliber pitcher, just like, oh yeah, I'll just float around as like the 6th starter, bullpen long guy. I mean, it's crazy. So I'm gonna go with the Dodgers, and I actually think it's gonna be Dodgers White Sox. I really like the White Sox. I think they fixed the back half of their bullpen with Hendricks, which was really, really important for them. And I think the Dodgers win it again pretty easily, though.
Yeah, I guess I'll go Padres over Yankees. I just think that the Padres have a fun team, and that might, and if their pitching's going well, if they're starting pitching, they've obviously added that starting pitching. If that's going well in the postseason, they could maybe knock off the Dodgers, and even, come in as a wild card team and knock off the team that beat them for the division. So I'm looking at that as a really good rivalry, somewhat like, 2003, 2004 Red Sox, Yankees, the Padres and the Dodgers. That's going to be that competitive where, the team that gets the wild card in that division is a legit World Series candidate. And that was true for the Red Sox and Yankees in 2003 and 2004. So, yeah, I think the Padres have a chance. I just like how fun they are. And, it's difficult to repeat 2 years in a row, even though last year was only 2 months.
That's true. So you've got, was it revenge for 1998? Was that the year they beat the Padres in the World Series?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
Was 98. For some reason, that year is screaming to me. But
I think it was.
I'm going to go with the ratings nightmare World Series. I'm going Padres over White Sox. Which obviously the Chicago market's great and everything, but not usually more for the Cubs than the White Sox. I said this a while ago, maybe like a month ago on Twitter, but I'm standing by it. I think the Padres, like you said, Chris, such a fun team and beyond fun, like just really, really loaded with talent. They went after anybody and everybody, and you forget some of the guys they have on the roster. This is not the James Shields Rockies. This is it wasn't Justin Upton Rockies. Like this is the Rockies Padres. It
is the James Shields Padres because they traded James Shields to get Tatis, right?
That's true. They did. But you know what? The nature is healing because the White Sox turn around and end up getting Lucas Giolito for, oh my God, who was it? Who did they get for?
I forget, but they've gotten some good. They did well in trades.
Yeah.
Besides that one was a flaw, a blip on the radar, but they have done good on some trades.
It happens. You know what? It happens. It's like the Red Sox trading Travis Shaw. Like it happens. But anyway, Chris, thank you very much for joining us here on our little
anytime.
Appreciate it. Where can we find you?
So at Smitty on MLB, it's Twitter, and masslive.com is the website. I don't own the website, but I write for it.
Go check out Chris's work. He does a great job covering the Sox. Dave, where can we find you?
You can find me at David_Albiani.
I'm at Jacob_Morocco. This podcast is SCSL Podcast on Twitter. We're at CSLpodcast.com as well. And let's hope this season's a better one for the Red Sox for my own sanity. We'll see you later. All right, let me end the broadcast and we'll be good to go.